tripod. I didn't lose it. I didn't know where I'd put it because I'd done some filming yesterday for the vlog and I just couldn't find it. So I think I need to get another tripod. So that's going on the to-do list, I think, because searching for it just now was all types of chaotic. I just couldn't find it. And then I found it in the corner of my kitchen, which was not ideal. So that's going to be first on my list now, get a new tripod. I hope everyone is doing well. So yesterday, I'm currently in the city of Budapest in Hungary. Yesterday was a public holiday. So having a public holiday right bang on a Wednesday in the middle of the week was very disconcerting to a lot of us. It was absolutely disconcerting, and it's confusing to have a public holiday in the middle of the week and then go back to 2 days of work before the weekend. So I'm just so confused. My body's confused. Good morning, Atomic Elf. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. My body's confused. My mind is... I'm just all sorts of confused right now. And it's not good. Okay, I might have to go and get the kettle in a second because I put it on to boil. And it's, you know, I like to do things the extremely difficult way. It's a whistling kettle. Yeah. They left it right on the Wednesday, right? So we've worked Monday, Tuesday. There's a holiday on the Wednesday, and we're back at work on Thursday and Friday. So all week I've just confused my days. Even today, I don't feel like I should be going in to teach, but I am, and it's so confusing. So yeah, welcome to another Write With Me. Oh, let me get my kettle, I'll be right back. 1 second. There's just something invigorating about whistling kettles. I'm loving this book, Writing Down the Bones. I will definitely be purchasing it at some point when funds aren't tight. Oh, lovely. Oh, I'm glad you're liking it. So what is interesting about it? What is, so... like, is it the author's point of view or the author's perspective? What's... Good morning, Bethany. All right. I'll be back. No problem. So I'm just going to continue with my writing of a few days ago. Oh no, the day before yesterday, because I couldn't do anything yesterday because I I did more typing, so I didn't do any physical writing. Fantastic. So if anyone wants to talk about their books or their works in progress, please do share. It's always very interesting. I've heard so many fascinating points of view on these live streams. And at some point in the next few weeks, I'll be visiting my the stationery store I go to for all my pens and nibs, and I mean it feels quite disrespectful to refer to it as a stationery store, because it's more of like an experience. They have beautiful journals, beautiful pens. It's just stationery everywhere. So for people who love pens and stationery, oh my goodness, you'll love it. But I do want to ask permission, because I'm going to go in with a little vlog camera, but I do want to ask permission to go in there and, I mean, I go in there when there are no other customers in there, because I like to just be there for a while. But they're used to me, but I do want to ask the permission if I can bring a camera in, just because I think it's nicer too. But they know I absolutely adore their store. Her perspective is really interesting. Fascinating. You're having issues with your speaker. I'm hoping you can hear me now, and it's not just my microphone. But usually the microphone's pretty good. Yeah, it's always nice to see an author, especially writing about self-help or improvement with a different perspective. That's always so fascinating. Oh, you can hear me perfectly, thank you. One poem or story doesn't matter one way or the other. It's the process of writing a life that matters. Too many writers have written great books and gone insane or alcoholic or killed themselves. I do agree with that. That's correct. Exactly, because I think, and just to chip in there, I think so many people write to meet the needs of the agents, the publishers, rather than writing what they want to write. And it's like what Toni Morrison said about write the book you want to read. And I think that's something I've always done. I've always written the sort of books that I want to read, that I'm more interested in, And it was an issue I found when I started submitting professionally to agents and literary houses, because they said, oh, no, we want you to write this. They wanted to steer me in certain directions, because obviously I'm Nigerian. And being Nigerian, they said, we want more literary books, because so many Nigerian authors are literary and they write in a certain style, and I just couldn't do it. So yeah, that's such an important point. The process teaches about sanity. We're trying to become sane along with our poems and stories. Most definitely. And I wish more people knew how important writing was for mental health. I think we don't talk about that enough. Writers are often depicted as going mad or being hermits or being antisocial. But I think more than anything, writing is extremely, extremely important for mental health. And it's sad that we don't give more authority to that and give more, give more of our attention to that, especially in terms of the arts, just creativity. it's been so dampened down in the rush to make money, pay bills, but in some ways creativity is more important because that is what will help you in terms of your mental health and in terms of any issues you may be having. So if anyone's writing anything interesting in particular, obviously do share. Okay. I'm writing 2 books. One is a remake of something I started when I was 17. It's about reincarnated demigods that have to break a curse to save their world. Oh, lovely. That sounds quite, that sounds more like a high fantasy, right? Yeah, reincarnated demigods that sounds high fantasy. And it's always good to like go back and work on ideas we had previously. I don't think we realise how important that is because it really does help. The other is a much bigger production about 6 kingdoms that are on the verge of war, but in one last-ditch attempt to prevent it, all the kingdoms send their next generation. Ah, leaders. That sounds. I like when a kingdom or a group is on the edge of tension or conflict. I don't know why. I think that's just always so interesting. When there's always a us versus them sort of thing. I don't know why I like that. But yeah, that sounds fascinating actually. Sounds really good. Yeah, to visit each kingdom for peace talks. Oh yeah, that sounds like the demigods one sounds good as well. But I really love plot lines with kingdoms and conflict. I don't know, that just I think for me that is so much easier to write because you can sort of build these different worlds and create all these characters, in my opinion, but only for like working on 2 high fantasy books at the same time. Oh good lord, I'm trying to be healthy and drink more herbal tea and it does feel good, but it's like no sugar whatsoever. A lot of intrigue and drama. Yeah, it sounds like it does. It does sound like there is a lot of intrigue and drama. But that's what makes a really good story. Intrigue, drama, conflict resolution. That's what makes such a good story. Oh, hi Dan, how are you? Oh, I think quite a lot. I think quite a lot of authors work on different books at the same time, because I do believe that. I'm working on Heathens. I'm working on a few short stories. I'm working on some scripts. I'm working on, uh, and I think that even though you have a main goal, sometimes you have all these little side quests and side goals, and they don't take up much of your time because you can juggle several books at the same time. I'm not sure why people think it's such a negative thing. It's not at all. It's kind of like having a break from one book to sort of think about it, but you still want to write, so you go on and write the next story. Oh, thank you, Dan. That's amazing. I'm glad you love my books. I'm glad you like them. They're really fun to write. They are really, really fun to write, and I couldn't do without writing anymore. I think I'd go mad, so. Have you ever tried writing two books at the same time, trying to weave the storylines together? Ah, no, I have not tried that. I know that when I wrote The Dwellers, so when I wrote this series, this is The Dwellers Beneath the Arches. This was interesting because I was plotting, there is a parallel world to the Dwellers series, so there is another different world to it. But this series is in modern day London, whilst the other Dwellers series is going to be in a parallel, in Victorian London where the Dwellers are from. So it's sort of what happens when they end up being shifted from Victorian London. So I sort of have an idea of what the other series is going to entail. But I haven't written two different books and tried to intertwine the storylines together because that could get very, very messy and very frustrating very quickly. Yeah, so I wouldn't. I mean, people could do it, but I wouldn't. Don't get me wrong. I'm working on the next book in the Heathens series, but at the same time, I'm adding bits to the book after. So let's say I'm working on book 3 of Heathens. I'm adding to book 4 of Heathens as well, because I know what's going to go in it, but I'm not trying to weave it together, if you understand what I mean. Good morning, Reese. I think people who can weave different storylines together, that's an amazing skill to have. But you have to be very, very strict and very regimented. And I don't think I'm regimented enough to do that. Oh, damn, that's so sweet. That's really funny. But thank you. That is so, so sweet. Oh, to anyone who's watching the live right now, I always forget to say this. Can you please give it a like? I don't know how you do that on the stream, but can you like the stream if you do like it, of course. Apparently YouTube does want you to do that. No, Heathens is not on Audible yet, unfortunately. I'm working on getting everything on Audible and getting audio done. But, oh my goodness, and I'm trying to move them because right now they're all on Amazon. And I'm trying to get them on, because they were previously on, with Barnes& and Noble as well. But the issue was that they were enrolled in the Amazon KDP program, and then we didn't realize it, and we put on and once on the Amazon KDP program, they have to be exclusive to Amazon. But I think it's better to not be exclusive to Amazon at the moment. So I'm working on getting them across other channels. Don't worry, it's going to go on Audible as well. Yeah. The organization process is quite interesting. But yeah, my editor's kind of complaining about at the moment because she's like, you have to spread them across different platforms, which I get, but sometimes it's... So, whilst everyone is on, if you have any questions about your writing motivation, or because I know a few people have been feeling uh, unmotivated in the last, in the last few streams I've done. So, just air your thoughts out and air your concerns out because I think it's really important. I like to, well, I've got a video coming out about that today, but it's really, really important to get your motivation right. Do you know about the bookseller, Half Price Books Company? They sell books for the full book price, not just markdown prices. It's a good bookstore in my state, at least. Ah, wonderful. I have not heard about it, but that's a good tip. What state are you in? And whilst there are quite a few people on now, I just want to ask, do you prefer the live streams with music or without music? Or do you just prefer the sounds of the pen and the keyboard? Let me know because I don't know if people actually prefer music or not. Ah, without music, okay. Oh, that's wonderful. I love the sound of the pen as well. That's why I turned the music off because I didn't. The raw writing of an author. Yeah, I do. I like the sounds of the pen as well. It's very soothing. I loved your ring. Oh, thank you, Caleb. Half Price Books is where I got my first tarot card deck. I love that place. Oh. It's awesome watching a book and story being born. Lovely. You're the only YouTuber that I've seen actually writing books. You definitely have found a good niche. Oh, thank you. I think there's another YouTuber who writes books, but she doesn't write them by hand. She types. I think, yeah, she types them. But I prefer writing because yeah, it's so much easier to get the ideas down when you write. When I'm writing something I like, sometimes I like background music, but for these sessions, the sound of pen on paper and quiet is also nice. Oh, lovely. So I'm glad the pen on paper works for so many people, because that's actually what attracted me to handwriting, because I used to listen to my granddad, write notes, write letters, like sign documents. And I always listened to his pen scratching the paper, and it was just so soothing. What authors inspired me to start writing? I don't know. I don't know, because when I was younger, I read more kids' books and I read more encyclopedias. Those huge, those leather-bound encyclopedias, because we have so many of them in the house. So I read those as well. And I read a lot more adult books, which I had no business reading. But we had a little home library, which was filled with adult books. I just used to read them. And then they realised that, But when I was younger, the books I was really into that I recall, I loved Nancy Drew. I actually believe Nancy Drew was real for so long. I actually wish she was real. So I like that. And I like to snoop around the garden and solve mysteries and create mysteries to solve as well. But yeah, I wouldn't say, because a lot of the books I read were by ghost writers. So Nancy Drew, they were all ghost writers who wrote them. But I read a lot of. I was obsessed with her. Yeah, I read Nancy Drew. My cousin read the Hardy Boys, and I started reading the combinations. And I think the Hardy Boys. I'm glad that the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew worked well together. And the Hardy Boys were very healthy, clean-cut males, so they weren't opposed to taking instructions from Nancy. But it was great. It was great. Yes, I had. We had encyclopedias, and they were huge, and they just completely disappeared now. They were absolutely huge and massive, and I opened them, and I think that's where I got my love of travel, because I would read these encyclopedias talking about these countries like Kenya and all these far-flung countries in the world. Yeah. Oh, it was an amazing experience having a dedicated space for writing, and yeah. So I wouldn't say any particular authors, but I just started writing because I had a very active imagination and I like to put words on paper. Yeah, I think Bethany's working on two books. One book is about demigods, and the other book is about different kingdoms going on the brink of war, who send their next generations to resolve the conflict. So there, those are two quite interesting plots. In Waterstones, I once had a poem I wrote won a competition, and it was published in a young writers anthology in Waterstones. That's amazing. That is amazing. Oh, Dan, I have ideas for a book, but just haven't got going on it yet. You need to get going on it. You need to just start writing it. Start writing it, please. The world needs to hear your voice. Yeah, I was rather proud of that poem, especially since I was a nobody from a council estate. You should be proud of it. That's amazing, and I think you get such different stories from many different areas in life and different people. So most certainly, you should be proud of it. Definitely. Yeah, Dan, you should just start writing. To be honest, because I think people who always wait for the perfect moment never actually get anything done. They just wait and wait and wait, and nothing ever gets done. What helped you get inspired before and during your writing? What helps to get inspired? Wow. I So in terms of writing inspiration, there's nothing that helps with inspiration. I think to get inspired as a writer, and I'm sure I've done a video about this, to get inspired as a writer, you have to be in the moment. So wherever you are, whether you're in Beirut, in a war zone, where like in a cafe, you're standing by a tree, you have to be able to get inspired in that moment. And that just comes from being present in the moment, if you know what I mean, not distracting yourself. Because I think the more distractions you have, such as fiddling around with your phone, the less likely you are to get inspiration, in my opinion. So I've gotten inspiration by looking at someone, or someone's leather jacket, or a shoe, or an abandoned shoe. I once got inspiration by looking at so I sort of stared at I saw an abandoned shoe in a field, and then I concocted an entire story around that shoe. Yeah. No, I do not dream about any of my stories. If I started dreaming about my stories, I would be in a lot of trouble, because that means I'm not working with a full deck. Because my stories they're all quite dark. Even the dwellers, that's supposed to be a nice dark, like fantasy, but it's very dark because there's lots of killings and stuff. The Coat series, that's like a dark academia as well. That's supposed to be, just a dark academia boarding school type of thing. It gets quite dark very quickly. So, no, if I had to dream about my stories, well, it means things have gone horribly, horribly wrong. Yeah, if you're constantly distracted and you're not in the moment, don't get me wrong, I love my phone, I love social media, but you have to be able to go outside, get some fresh air, take a turn down an abandoned alley, not an abandoned dangerous alley, but just walk, get some fresh air. And you live in Washington, and I believe in Washington you have is Oregon in Washington. I mean, you have some great some amazing hiking trails, and if you're not really a hiker, I've heard Washington, there's some really beautiful parts of it. Just go out there and explore. You will get so many ideas so quickly. But I do feel that you have to be present in the moment. Oh, Oregon is a different state. Okay. But I'm sure in Washington you have some sort of outdoorsy spots, right? But either way, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to go on a grueling hike. You can just go to a cafe and sit down and observe and just put your phone away, immerse yourself, like speak to the the barista, and just sit there and observe. You will get so much inspiration. They're both considered part of the Pacific Northwest. Okay, fascinating. Oh no, Reese, you have to leave the house. You have to leave the house to get inspiration. You can't stay at home. I mean, you can for a while because you can go out. For me, it's like feeding. You can go outdoors for a bit, get lots of ideas just by walking around, and then come back and feed off those ideas. But eventually, you will need a break again, and that's why even though I'm considered an introvert, I still, and even when I had my 3 months of just pure writing, I still went on walks. You need to go outside and go on walks, definitely. Or maybe if you have a garden, just go to the garden. Yeah, I understand going hermit mode, but you need to be able to just go outside and, you know, And you don't have to do anything substantial outside. You just have to go outside, get some fresh air, walk, get some exercise. So yeah, you have, Dan says you have ocean, mountains, wilderness in Washington. Fantastic. I mean, go do that. It doesn't have to be anything extreme. Go for a drive if you want. You can go for a drive, but I think walking is very therapeutic as well. It's very, very therapeutic. I hate when it's not straight. That really irks me somewhat. Yeah, I'm lucky here. 10 minutes from either the beach or the woods. Exactly. And that's why, I mean, I'm currently in Hungary, in Budapest. All my friends that live here, they live in a very busy downtown area. I can't stand it. I can't be there for too long. It's too noisy. It's too chaotic. There's not an ounce of green. I'm right by the woods where I am. So I come out and in 10 minutes, I'm in the woods. And these are the hills. You can walk for hours and be lost. Yeah, Dan, I'm glad the counseling session is working for you. You do need, sometimes we need a kick up the backside. Metal detecting. I like metal detecting and the history of the items I find, which gets me out and about sometimes. Although people always look at you like you're doing something illegal. I think people just automatically, some people automatically connect metal detecting with, like, I don't know, like you're hunting for some illegal treasure. So I just ignore. People like to stare anyway, so that's what people generally like. Even when I go to a cafe and I'm writing here, people just look at me like I'm crazy. So unfortunately, I think we've lost contact with the more solitary and eccentric activities we should be doing. Atomic Elf, something I journaled earlier this month. Inspiration may come from within, but it's often in response to something from outside of ourselves. I once heard an artist say, everything I need is inside me. I think this is only partly true. I sometimes withdraw to myself or become fully engrossed in my own thoughts and feelings when I am being creative, but I cannot close myself off from the outside world. There's a lot inside of me that I have to share with the world, but I must emerge from time to time to connect and find those seeds of inspiration. Definitely, that is something that's really, really important, because I think you can be an introvert, definitely, but to get what you need to go outdoors. And you don't necessarily have to see people, but you do need to go outdoors and walk and move for a long time and get that fresh air, you know? Because you need outside, I think it's like outside stimuli to get you going again. Because I think you can go outside for a bit and then possibly come back for several months and have, you know, inspiration for like several months of writing and several books. But eventually you will need to go outdoors again. That is my take on it. But I do agree that the inspiration is a response to the stimuli that we see. So perhaps if you see like a book or a shoe, you're responding to that. And if you're very imaginative, your brain starts to carve or create a character from that one interaction. I think writing is a brilliant way of leaving something behind when we're gone. It's a scary thought to have left nothing to the world and to be forgotten like dust in the wind. I do a bit of carpentry, and some of my pieces will be here long after I'm gone. Oh, that's a very sweet sentiment. Definitely, definitely. Especially if you're leaving something good to the world and something interesting. Most certainly. If you could meet three authors currently writing, which would they be? And if you could meet three authors from the past, who would they be? Three authors currently writing. One author I'd love to meet is Aronovich. Aronovich. I don't know. His surname is He wrote Rivers of London. I'd love to meet him because I know that he would be an absolute blast, and he would be really, really funny as well. So I'd love to meet him. Ooh, two others I'd love to meet currently. I can't think of anyone just yet. I think in the past I would love to meet. I'm doing a bit of a Google here because I always mistake. I always mistake. I'd love to meet Edgar Allan Poe. I think he'd be interesting. Very dark. He'd be a very dark and morbid character. I'd also love to meet. Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know. I would say Edgar Allan Poe for now from the past. And I think I'd like to meet someone along the lines of Shakespeare because it'd be interesting to see what writing in his time was like. I'd love to meet. I'd love to meet one of the more prominent Nigerian authors, Chinua Achebe, because he wrote this book called Things Fall Apart, and it was so popular when I was growing up, and my mum loved it, and it was about a king in a village in West Africa who dies, and just his life, and I remember like my mum like reading it and crying, and I thought, oh wow, this is fascinating, because it was my first realization that a book could actually move, a work of fiction could move people to tears. Did you like reading Charles Dickens? No, we were made to read Charles Dickens, which I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about it, but it was all right. Very morbid, very dark. Like if you like the dark Victorian, I think he was Victorian, wasn't he? Then yeah, you would love Charles Dickens. But for me, it was just everything was just grim and poverty and pain. I'm like, oh dear, it's very, very There's not an ounce of sunlight here. So yeah. I think the woodwork must be my blood. A relative of mine is the famous carpenter Mouseman Thompson from Kilburn in Yorkshire. He carved a little mouse into most of his work. Oh, that's quite unique. Apparently in his early life he joked about being as poor as a mouse and so started carving the little mice. That's quite a unique perspective and quite a unique signature to have. What about Rowling's who wrote Harry Potter? I didn't read the Harry Potter books. I didn't read the Harry Potter books. But yeah, she was a huge success story. But I've never read any of the Harry Potter books, and I've barely watched the films because like Harry Potter is more. I know it was read by a lot of adults, but it's more for middle school. Sort of that age range. So, and like I've sort of seen clips of the movies, and they just they're not dark enough for me. Yeah, they're not dark enough for me. I loved Dow as a child, especially his book Boy, which was sort of an autobiography. Yeah, Roald Dahl is a pretty famous author. But in terms of authors, especially authors from before me, I like the really dark personalities. Didn't all right, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Have you ever read the book? The book thing. Yeah, I think he did write Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, he did. He did write Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as well. Um, I've heard of The Book Thief. I haven't read it. What I do want to read next is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. But I think it might be quite sad because I think a lot of his books deal with themes of suicide and mental health. But I do want to read it because I think it'll be a good read. Yeah, Gene Wilder's was great as I've forgotten the name of the main character in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh, he's completely escaped me now. I remember the Oompa Loompas, but I can't remember the name of Oh yeah, Willy Wonka. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Charlie and the Chocolate. Would you want your books ever made into movies? Would you want your books ever made into movies? Yeah, if the depiction was right, of course. If the characters are depicted properly, of course. Because I think there's a reason why certain books are so interesting. Because, and I think I'm going to be honest and say that I've watched so many movies where the characters are not depicted as they are in the books, and it's been a complete and utter disappointment. So sometimes it's better to leave the characters in the books, because I think perhaps the people who make the movies are not as immersed in the books as the reader would be. Well, that's just my opinion. Sometimes when I put a new name, just a random name, in the text, I like to mark it out just in case this person, just for continuity reasons, and just to make sure I don't make an error when it comes to that same name, because it's just a random name I thought up on the spot. And there's nothing worse than thumbing through thousands of sheets of paper to try and find that solitary name. And just to show you how much I write in terms of handwriting, this is my, I believe this is called an accordion folder. And it's just filled to the brim with stacks of paper. Some of them have been typed up, some of them I'm going through the process of typing, some of them I'm transcribing, just, So these are all different books, and some of them are series that I'm working on. So it's always good to have everything just well organized, or else if you have too much paper everywhere, you run into a lot of trouble. These are all the short stories. Yes, oh my is correct. Have you ever made a continuity error in your writing? Yes, I have. Yes, I've maybe, in one chapter, the person's been wearing a certain color necklace or an amulet or something, and then maybe in the next scene, it's disappeared. Or the person's sitting down. It's very subtle, very slight, nothing major. The person's sitting down, and then they're talking in the next few lines, and then they're standing across the room. things like that. But that's why you need a very good, very conscientious, very attentive editor. Your editor will literally save your life and your writing because they notice all these little things. I've seen some, quite huge errors in some traditionally published books. And these are quite popular books, and the errors and the continuity errors were so jarring that they kicked me out of the story. And that's why it's so important to have a good editor who knows what to look for. Can you see my question about the movies? Oh yes, would you want known actors or up-and-coming actors with no fame yet? It entirely depends on the actual character and who they're trying to portray. Obviously, you don't want any actors with any controversies or whatever. You just want. I think for that reason, you want people who are not well known because they're fresh on the screen and they carry a bit of mystery as well. So probably actors who are not well known. Actually, that'll be more interesting. I have an iPad I used to write on. Oh my god, I love it. I can handwrite and I have all my notes, brain dumps, character profiles, all in one spot. I use an app called Notability. Interesting, because I was thinking of getting an iPad. So that's very, very interesting to note. Because at the moment, when I write, when I'm out and about, and I don't have the convenience of ink and like paper and all this, I just have my little keyboard, which is fantastic as well. But I'll look into that because I was thinking of getting some sort of tablet because I haven't had a tablet in so long. There's an app called Google Keep. That's a mouthful for Android users. Google Keep. Yeah. Yeah, and there's lots of handwriting apps now, which is pretty good. Oh, good night, Dan. Have a lovely night. If you do get an iPad, get the paper-like screen protector. It gives the screen a paper feel for writing and drawing. Oh, okay. That is a very... I'm going to write that down. So iPad, paper-like screen protector. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, because I've been thinking about an iPad for so long. I think more for writing as well. Okay, I'm going to stop the session there, and I'm going to bid everyone good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'm supposed to be teaching in an hour's time, so I'm going to go in and teach. I have a lovely student I teach, a lawyer, and the conversations are always really interesting. I teach English and we have cups of tea, which is really nice. So if you're writing, please do keep writing. And if you're not writing, please do start writing. And I will see you in the session tomorrow at the same time. Okay? Have a lovely day. And I do hope you enjoy writing. And it is extremely productive, which is important. Okay, lovely. Bye.